Unfortunately, at some point in our career, we have all worked with one of those passive-aggressive people. Mm-hmm. They can never accept any type of accountability. They're always assigning blame to others, pointing fingers, and no matter what it was never their fault.
They're the really good excuse givers, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, this person who goes to schedule and they go, who scheduled this? Well, somebody must have used my computer. I always love the somebody, right? Somebody's always to blame. Well, in this video, we're going to make sure that you can, one, identify who those passive-aggressive individuals are in the practice and help you work through the day with them. At the Dental MVP, we use science to teach people skills to you, the dental professionals. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel, the Dental MVP, and don't forget to hit the bell so you never miss out.
Did somebody already come to mind, whether it's in the practice or outside of the practice? Unfortunately, we have all been victim to those passive-aggressive people. So we're going to give you some tips for identifying them and how to cope with them.
There's a few common characteristics that you can look for when it comes to these passive-aggressive individuals on your team. Number one, they are just unreasonable to deal with. Number two, they have excuses for everything. 3, they blame others. 4, they don't complete tasks that they've been assigned to. 5, they rarely express their hostility directly. And 6, they repeat their behavior over and over.
One of the most frustrating things is that when we approach these really passive-aggressive team members, we can't do it in a traditional way of just walking up and letting them know what's going on and asking them for a solution, because realistically, they are going to deny what's going on. Mm-hmm. They will reassign blame to somebody else, which then just kind of pulls more people into what's occurring, and they're just going to be hostile about it. So we have to be very selective in the way that we then just decide to proceed forward with them to actually reach some sort of a desired outcome. Because dealing with passive-aggressive people can be really frustrating. It is just those irrational conversations that you keep having where you're like, I feel like we're just going in circles.
Way around and
over
around,
and over and over again.
Like
We've
a million
had these
excuses being
conversations
thrown at you over and over again. You're like, wow, it's so amazing. It's kind of amazing sometimes how many excuses they can have for the same thing.
Yeah.
Like the same behavior repeats itself and they've got another excuse. It's like, it just keeps happening. You're like, man, like, where is that pile of excuses coming from? That is an excessive amount of excuses.
And you're like, okay, let's put out all of these fires that could potentially be the source of this. But then there's just another excuse. So we're going to give you some tips on how to proceed with those conversations to try to resolve any of these barriers that you're having.
Tip number 1, and while this might be the most difficult tip, is do not react to the behavior. And don't take it personal. The best thing to do is to realize that these passive-aggressive individuals, this is the only way that they know how to deal.
Yeah, they deal by not dealing. And that's just how they approach conflict. Is they're not good with conflict. Even if it's more leading to a resolution or something productive, this is just something that's not comfortable to them, and they would rather assign blame, get frustrated, or completely avoid doing a task. So just accept that it's not a you thing, that they just deal by not dealing. So we have to be very practical in the way that we approach finding solutions to the situation.
Tip number 2 is to make sure that we are approaching the conversation positively and also assertively. These individuals are really going to try to drag you down that negative train, and it is so easy to quickly be like, well, if you had just done this and if you had done that. But what we want to do is we want to avoid that, because that is going to add fuel to the fire. That's exactly what they're looking for, because that's the only way that they know how to handle these confrontational conversations, is to continue to be passive-aggressive, to deny, to make up excuses. So we really want to approach it as positively as possible, but also with really being able to assert ourselves and to create those boundaries to be able to have a productive conversation.
We can do this by showing that we are a team, that we're working towards a solution together. So as Christina was saying, we don't want to assign blame to things. So if we're like, if you could have just done this, because we've had this conversation 5 times and I don't understand why you don't understand that this is your role.
Yeah.
But instead trying to use words like we and us. So how can we move forward to ensure that we're able to achieve this goal. And it is bonus points if you can give solutions.
Yes.
So how can we move forward to achieve this goal? Do you think that it would be more effective to try doing this or this? Because the challenge with passive aggressive people is that if you leave it as a completely open-ended question, their answer is going to be, well, I'm not going to do anything.
And that's the really frustrating part of passive aggressiveness.
It is really frustrating. So if you can assign at least some options to the end of it, let the person know that you're working together as a team, then you're able to move forward. And it sounds crazy, but it's almost like talking to your kids. So you wouldn't look at your toddler and say, oh, do you want to put your shoes on? Because they're going to say, nope. You're going to say, do you want to wear the white shoes or do you want to wear the yellow shoes? So then you at least get a response for an answer. And it sounds crazy, but that is one of the best ways to be able to move forward with them.
Tip number 3 is to take the conversation to the next level by implementing empathy. Now, this is where you really got to put that emotional intelligent hat on. Remember that those passive-aggressive individuals are not comfortable with emotions. They might not necessarily know how to identify them or feel comfortable coming out and saying, I'm angry right now, I'm frustrated right now, I need help right now, and this is why I'm acting this way. That's just not what they're going to do. So it's really important is to be able to identify if somebody's been having a really crazy day and they're stomping down the hallway and they're frantically, flipping their room over. You know that feeling. You have felt that feeling before. So go up to them and don't say like, I can see you're really angry right now, but instead say, hey, we've all been there before. It's been kind of a crazy day. Is there anything that I can do to help you? Use the emotion that you're seeing to help label it for them so that they get more comfortable and can kind of break down that barrier a little bit more with getting comfortable with labeling their emotions and being able to say those things with you versus denying it and having excuses for the way that they feel. Just allow them to actually feel that way because we've all felt that way.
Yeah, even being able to say like, it is frustrating when there are last minute schedule changes. In the future, how could we deal with making sure it's communicated well? Would you like to do this option or would this option be something that you think could be more effective? Getting their input just to try to avoid any of those situations that create that high tension that just comes out as anger because there's that barrier of labeling emotions and identifying them.
Tip number 4 is to make sure to set boundaries. It is really important to take care of yourselves and your team members and make sure that everyone's mental health is stable. So if we have an individual who is consistently passive aggressive, who we try to label emotions for, who we try to give options for, but yet just constantly is making excuses and blaming others and throwing others under the bus constantly, then we really need to make sure that we have set boundaries, that we have good protocols in place for what is acceptable in the practice and what isn't. We have a video on how to deal with toxic people. These people would be the ones who fall into the toxic category, those ones who are just bringing down the whole team. And you'll want to watch that video to know how to handle that specific type of employee.
But make sure that you're limiting your amount of time around them. Now, I know that might not even be an option. If this is someone who is sitting at a desk next to you or is in the operatory next to you and inadvertently you are just always around them, and it's wearing on you, then it might be time to be able to take this conversation to the next level. And in that situation, making sure that you're really documenting what's been going on, what the barriers are, how it affects productivity, the team culture, the team morale, and be prepared to kind of escalate that conversation to the next level.
Now, there are a lot of different types of personalities that we're going to be expected to work with within the practice. And passive aggressiveness, hopefully for not everyone, is one of them, but more than likely you're going to run into someone who has this type of behavior. And we want to make sure that we're able to work with them and work with them productively. So hopefully these tips and tricks have helped you to be able to find ways to communicate with these passive aggressive individuals. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, The Dental MVP, and like this video.